We just saw President Bush 41's casket roll by through that plexiglass. Look at all these people looking on and paying their respects. Ed Lavandera is there somewhere in these crowds. And Ed, I mean, I hear it's not a pretty day in Texas. It's been raining. But the fact that so many people are showing up to show their respect for a man who gave so much to this country. Tell me more.
Hey, good afternoon, Brooke. Well, here thousands of people have lined up along the streets here, along these train tracks, just for this brief glimpse of the train coming through town here. And one of the things that has really kind of stuck out to me here is watching is the number of military veterans, young and old, Vietnam veterans, also some perhaps even a little bit older than that, also veterans of the more recent wars. So I was very much struck by that kind of feeling and the number of veterans who have shown up here. Of course, President George H.W. Bush, a vaulted member of a naval officer and obviously a heroic World War II participant. So I was really kind of struck by that. And many people here, and just as the train had just passed by, already starting to clear out from the grounds here. But if you look out here in the distance, Brooke, you can just see the number of people who have turned out to this small town, population of just over 1,000. And one of the local law enforcement officials told us that they had more than 3,000 people here in town this afternoon. So you get really a sense of just this one brief stop along this journey to George H.W. Bush's final resting place, just a couple of hours away from where we are here this afternoon. Brooke?
Let me stay with you for a minute, Ed, as we're on these pictures and you see this beautiful, brightly colored train traversing Texas from, as you pointed out, Houston to Texas A&M and in College Station, Texas. You know, the World Watch, the funeral and the National Cathedral and all presidents present and just beautiful eulogies. And now, just tell us a little bit more about where this train is headed and the private ceremony to ensue.
Well, this is really just carving a very kind of quiet path through the southeast part of Texas. So it's a very quaint countryside that takes them to College Station in the Texas A&M campus, where the presidential library is held, where his wife Barbara is buried and their 3-year-old daughter Robin as well. So it really is kind of just a very picturesque ending. In a much different way from everything that we have seen so far, with the majesty of Air Force One and the Special Air Mission 41 taking in from Houston to Washington, D.C., the U.S. Capitol, the National Cathedral, all of this. And this is really returning back to just small town America, is really the last part of this week-long journey and this week-long goodbye to this president. So it really is kind of fascinating. And you actually had, as the train was going by, I didn't actually see President George W. Bush or Jeb Bush or anyone, but you did see a number of family members. You had a pretty clear shot of a lot of the family members who were up against the windows there, waving to these crowds as people have gone by. And we talked to a county constable here in the town of Magnolia, who told us an interesting story. He said, it wasn't uncommon for folks here to see, or at least think they saw, George H.W. Bush coming through town here, that he would often ride the train from Houston to College Station for sporting events or maybe some other events. If he ever chose to ride the train, he said you would never really know if the president was on there, but every once in a while they would see some Secret Service guys come through town, and then a train blowing through at about 100 miles an hour, and that was kind of the sign that that it was President Bush had been on that train. So it was like these little moments that they've seen here in the last few decades that has really stuck with a lot of people. And obviously all of that comes to an end. This was that final ride here through the town of Magnolia, and Jeb Bush and family members and George W. Bush on board that train to take the president to his final resting place.